August 7, 1942, Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands. As dawn broke over the Pacific, 11,000 United States Marines stormed ashore, launching Operation Watchtower, the first major Allied offensive against the Empire of Japan. This audacious amphibious assault marked a pivotal moment in the Pacific War, shifting the momentum from Japanese expansion to Allied counteroffensive. Beyond the fierce naval engagements and grueling jungle combat that defined the six-month campaign, an unexpected and ingenious weapon emerged from the dense tropical darkness of the island's perimeter. This weapon was not forged in steel nor powered by explosives, but rooted in the subtle yet profound structure of human language itself. The Marines faced an immediate and deadly challenge. In the chaotic environment of jungle warfare, visibility often dropped to mere feet amid tangled vegetation and heavy rainfall. Japanese infiltrators, some speaking English and occasionally wearing captured American uniforms, posed a constant threat to the security of American lines. How could sentries at checkpoints distinguish friend from foe in the pitch-black nights of Guadalcanal? The answer lay in a deceptively simple linguistic tool, the pronunciation of a single letter. Master Technical Sergeant James W. Herbert, a combat correspondent with the United States Marine Corps Reserve, landed with the assault forces on August 7th. In a March 10, 1943 interview preserved in Naval Archives, Herbert provided the clearest primary source evidence of a security measure that became standard practice during the campaign. His testimony offers a window into the innovative use of pronunciation testing in the Pacific Theater. "We always used passwords containing the letter L," Herbert explained, because L was thought to be difficult for Japanese speakers to pronounce since their language lacks this sound. This observation reflected a sophisticated understanding of linguistic differences that proved invaluable for American security efforts throughout the campaign. Herbert also acknowledged a key limitation. The test sometimes failed, with English-educated Japanese soldiers revealing that Marines encountered infiltrators with varying levels of English proficiency. While effective, the measure was not infallible, highlighting the complexity of applying linguistic tools in the chaos of war. By 1600 hours, 400 p.m. on August 8th, the Marines had captured a nearly completed Japanese airfield, a critical objective that would shape the entire campaign. Initially called Lunga Airfield by the Japanese, it was renamed Henderson Field, in honor of Major Lofton. Henderson, a Marine aviator killed at the Battle of Midway. The airfield became operational on August 12th, when a PBY Catalina flying boat landed, and by August 20th, a permanent air contingent arrived with 31 aircraft. Henderson Field became the focal point of the six-month campaign, as Japanese forces launched relentless assaults to reclaim it. Control of the airfield meant control of the skies and seas around Guadalcanal, making its defense paramount. Japanese forces known for their tactical flexibility and tenacity employed infiltration tactics, moving through the jungle at night in small groups or as individuals. Their goals were to gather intelligence sabotage equipment or sow confusion among American defenders. The nighttime jungle environment with its near-zero visibility created ideal conditions for such operations. Sentries posted around the perimeter faced the daunting task of making split-second decisions about whether approaching figures were friendly Marines or enemy infiltrators. Traditional identification methods proved woefully inadequate in these conditions. Documents could be forged or taken from fallen soldiers, uniforms could be stolen from casualties. Physical appearance was nearly impossible to verify in the darkness. Even voices could deceive, as some Japanese soldiers spoke English with varying degrees of fluency. The Marines needed a method that was quick, reliable, and resistant to counterfeiting something that revealed identity through traits an infiltrator could not easily control. The solution lay in exploiting the phonological structure of the Japanese language, a system fundamentally different from English. To understand why this approach was so effective, we must delve into the linguistic underpinnings that made pronunciation testing a viable security tool. Japanese has a single liquid phoneme represented in Hepburn romanization as R, but pronounced as an alveolar tap denoted in the International Phonetic Alphabet as E. This sound is produced by briefly tapping the tongue against the alveolar ridge just behind the upper front teeth. It differs markedly from both the English R and L sounds. English, by contrast, has two distinct liquid phonemes. The English L is a lateral approximant formed by placing the tongue tip firmly against the alveolar ridge while allowing air to flow around the sides. The American English R is a postalveolar approximant produced with the tongue pulled back, not touching the roof of the mouth. These sounds occupy separate phonetic spaces easily distinguished by native English speakers, but perceived as a single category by Japanese speakers. This difference is not due to physical inability or hearing deficits. Japanese speakers can produce both English sounds with training and can hear their acoustic differences in isolation. The challenge is perceptual and categorical. During early childhood language acquisition, the Japanese brain categorizes both English R and L sounds as variants of the single Japanese liquid phoneme. When hearing these sounds in speech, Japanese speakers process them as the same sound, making it difficult to distinguish or produce them accurately in English. Post-war linguistic research confirmed this phenomenon. Studies by Goto in 1971, Miyawaki and colleagues in 1975, and Takagi and Mann in 1995 demonstrated that Japanese speakers, even those with years of English exposure, struggled to differentiate R and L sounds. Takagi and Mann found that Japanese speakers living in the United States for over a decade still had significant difficulty compared to native English speakers. The 1975 Miyawaki study offered a critical insight. When R and L sounds were stripped of speech-like qualities through acoustic manipulation, Japanese speakers could distinguish them as well as English speakers. This showed that the difficulty lay not in hearing the sounds, but in how the brain processed them as linguistic units. For the Marines at Guadalcanal, this linguistic reality created a nearly insurmountable barrier for Japanese infiltrators. Even those fluent in English vocabulary and grammar would betray themselves through mispronunciation of L sounds, especially under the stress fatigue or time pressure of a nighttime challenge. The automatic nature of these pronunciation patterns rooted in early language acquisition made them difficult to fake. The Marines capitalized on this by using challenge words rich in L sounds. Herbert S. testimony indicates that passwords were deliberately chosen to include multiple L's, ensuring that Japanese speakers would struggle to pronounce them correctly. A native English speaker would articulate the password effortlessly, while a Japanese speaker, even one proficient in English, would likely substitute a sound closer to the Japanese R, producing a pronunciation that sounded distinctly wrong to a trained sentry. One specific word, Lollapalooza, appears in a single contemporary source. Oliver Garling, a journalist with the Associated Press, wrote in his 1942 book, Free Men Are Fighting the Story of World War II, that sentries used Lollapalooza as a shibboleth. If the first two syllables came back as Rora, the sentry would open fire without waiting for the rest. This word, an American slang term for something extraordinary, was ideal. It contains 4 L sounds in rapid succession. Lollapalooza, each posing a challenge for Japanese speakers. The focus on the first two syllables allowed sentries to make quick decisions, minimizing exposure during the challenge. However, the evidence for Lollapalooza is limited to WWII's account, published in 1942. It is contemporary and credible but lacks corroboration from official Marine Corps reports or other first-hand accounts. Richard Tregaskis, S. Guadalcanal Diary, published in 1943, and Robert Leckie, S. Helmet for My Pillow, do not mention the word. While Lollapalooza fits the documented practice and tactical requirements, its use remains plausible. But unconfirmed Herbert E.S. testimony confirms the systematic use of L-based passwords, providing a solid foundation for the practice S existence. The 6-month campaign from August 7, 1942 to February 9, 1943, saw relentless Japanese efforts to retake Henderson Field major battles like the Battle of the Tanaru on August 21st, Edson's Ridge on September 12th to 14th, and Henderson Field on October 23rd to 26th, underscored the stakes. Security remained critical as Japanese infiltrators used stealth camouflage and occasional English proficiency to penetrate American lines. Herbert noted an additional security clue. On one occasion, a sentry identified infiltrators by their overly precise grammar. One reportedly said, "Hold your fire. We are American Marines and wish to report our evening's activities," prompting immediate fire because no Marine would speak that way. The term shibboleth originates from the Hebrew Bible Judges 12:56, where Gileadites identified Ephraimites by their inability to pronounce shibboleth correctly, saying sibboleth instead. This historical precedent highlights the long-standing use of linguistic differences for identification. The D-Day invasion of 1944 employed a similar principle with passwords like Flash Thunder and Welcome Chosen. For sounds difficult for German speakers, such as the ETH in Thunder and W in Welcome. These examples show that exploiting phonological differences was a recognized military tactic. The Japanese language also lacks the English VI sound often substituted with B and the TH sounds and has a simpler vowel system. These could have been exploited, but the LR distinction was likely prioritized for its reliability and ease of implementation. The jungle environment of Guadalcanal amplified the need for such measures. Dense vegetation, heavy rain, and frequent nighttime operations limited visibility, making verbal challenges critical. Japanese tactical doctrine emphasizing infiltration and chaos further necessitated robust security protocols. The Military Intelligence Service Language School, EMISLAS, offers a compelling counterpoint established in 1941 at the Presidio of San Francisco. ITE trained over 6,000 Japanese-American Nisei as translators, interpreters, and intelligence specialists. These soldiers provided critical support interrogating prisoners, translating documents, and intercepting communications. Their native English pronunciation allowed them to pass OBASed tests, effortlessly demonstrating that linguistic identity, not ethnicity, determined the test's outcome. Their service often, while their families faced internment, highlighted their loyalty and added complexity to the narrative of pronunciation testing. Private First Class Eugene B. Sledge, S. Memoir, With the Old Breed at Peleliu and Okinawa, offers insight into Pacific combat but does not mention pronunciation testing. Sledge arrived at Guadalcanal in 1944 for training after the campaign. The absence of widespread memoir references suggests the practice, while effective, was routine and unremarkable to those using it daily. The Guadalcanal campaign exacted a heavy toll. American forces suffered approximately 7,100 killed and 8,000 wounded. Japanese casualties reached around 31,000, many from disease and starvation. The Japanese evacuation in February 1943 saved 5,000 troops, but marked a strategic defeat. Pronunciation testing had limitations. English-educated Japanese could sometimes pass, and combat noise could obscure pronunciation differences. Diverse Allied forces, including Filipino and Chinese-American soldiers, required sentries to account for legitimate accent variations. Filipino languages, like Tagalog, include L and R sounds, reducing false positives, but other accent differences needed consideration. Despite these challenges, pronunciation testing was an elegant solution. It required no equipment, was quick and leveraged, a fundamental linguistic trait difficult to alter. The practice, S significance, extends beyond Guadalcanal. It informed later Pacific campaigns, though direct evidence of its use elsewhere is scarce. The principle of exploiting language differences remained sound, influencing security protocols in subsequent conflicts like Vietnam and modern operations using voice stress analysis and linguistic profiling. The ethical dimensions of pronunciation testing are noteworthy. Unlike coercive measures, it was diagnostic, identifying linguistic background without physical harm. It adhered to the laws of war and distinguished linguistic identity from ethnicity as shown by Nisei soldiers passing the tests. The test, S, reliance on objective phonetic evidence, avoided arbitrary discrimination. The broader human dimension of Guadalcanal reveals the courage and adaptability of both American and Japanese forces. The Marines. Innovation in pronunciation testing reflects practical intelligence, while Japanese-American linguists demonstrated professionalism under adversity. Post-war research by linguists like Patricia Kuhl illuminated why the test worked. Infants distinguish all phonetic contrasts but specialize in native sounds within their first year. This neural commitment creates stable pronunciation patterns explaining why adult Japanese speakers struggled with L sounds. This understanding reshaped language teaching, recognizing foreign accents as structural, not merely errors. The story of pronunciation testing at Guadalcanal is a testament to tactical innovation. It shows how language, a quintessentially human trait, can become a tool of warfare. The verified evidence from Herbert and Garling confirms the use of L-based passwords addressing a real security challenge. Claims of a Pacific-wide program or exaggerated statistics lack documentation and should be approached cautiously. The honest history is compelling enough. American forces adapted to jungle warfare. S challenges using linguistic knowledge to enhance security. Their success at Guadalcanal laid the groundwork for subsequent Allied victories, marking a turning point in the Pacific War.